You ever notice how the harder you chase somebody, the further they seem to run? It's like the more you call, the less they answer. The more you show up, the less they appreciate it. That's not by accident, that's human nature. People take for granted what's always there. They get comfortable with your effort. They expect your presence. They stop valuing your energy because you gave it away too freely. But let me tell you something, the moment you stop chasing, the whole game changes. The silence hits different. Your absence speaks louder than all those words, all those texts, all those late nights you spent proving yourself. That's when they notice. That's when they rewind in their mind all the things you did for them. That's when they realize the gap your presence used to fill. See, chasing puts you in a position of weakness, but stepping back puts the power in your hands. It forces people to ask themselves what life feels like without you, and it forces you to recognize your own value. And once you see that value, you'll never waste your energy running after anybody again. When you stop chasing people, something powerful happens that most folks never even think about. You start to see the truth about human nature and how people value what they have. Well, see, the human mind is tricky. It's wired to overlook what's always around to get used to what feels guaranteed. That's why when you keep calling, keep checking, keep pulling up, people get comfortable. They think he'll always be there. She'll always show up. I don't have to do anything. They stop noticing the weight you carry in their life. And the crazy part is, you don't even realize it while you're in it because you're too busy proving yourself, too busy chasing. You don't see that by doing all the running. You're teaching them to stand still. You're showing them they don't got to move. They don't got to invest. They don't got to value your presence because you're already giving it up for free. But the moment you step back, the energy shifts. At first, they might not even notice. They might think you're just quiet for a day, just busy. Then a week goes by. That phone they used to light up all the time doesn't anymore. That attention they thought was endless suddenly goes missing. And that's when the mind starts to rewind. They replay the little things you used to do. The good mornings, the check-ins, the pull-ups, just to make sure they were good. They remember the laughs, the energy, the way you gave without asking for much back. They start to realize that hole isn't filled anymore, that space isn't occupied. And that's when the value kicks in, because absence has a way of shining a light on what presence could never make clear. See, when you always there, you like air, necessary but invisible. Nobody thinks about breathing until the air gets tight, until they feel the pressure of not having it. That's how presence works. If you don't give it space, if you don't step back, nobody even knows how much it meant. Absence forces awareness. It makes people sit with silence, sit with emptiness, and in that silence, they start to measure what you really brought into their world. That's when they feel the weight. That's when they miss you. It's not even about games or manipulation. It's about balance. When you chase, you throw balance off. You giving 80, they're giving 20, and the scale tips. But when you step back, the scale resets. People have to lean in to close the gap. They have to put effort into reaching you. That's when the energy exchange becomes fair. And fair energy is where respect lives. Respect can't grow when one side is doing all the work. It grows in the spaces where people meet in the middle, where both sides move with intention. And stepping back teaches that lesson in a way words never could. You don't got to lecture somebody about your value. You don't got to explain. You just remove your energy. And they feel it. They feel it more than anything you could have said. And here's the part a lot of people miss. It's not just about making them miss you. It's about giving yourself room to see what life feels like without chasing. Because when you're always running after others, you don't even notice how much of yourself you're draining. You don't notice how heavy it is to always be the one carrying the connection. When you stop, when you sit still, you start to breathe different. You start to see how much peace comes with not having to prove yourself every day. You start to notice your own value in a way you never could before. You see that the silence isn't just for them, it's for you too. It's a mirror. And in that mirror, you see whether they reach back, whether they step up, or whether they let you go. If they let you go, that tells you everything you need to know about the weight you really had in their life. Absence is a test, not just for them, but for you. Because it takes discipline to stop chasing. It takes strength to let go of the need to be validated, the need to always be noticed. You got to be comfortable with silence, with space, with the possibility that maybe they don't come back. That's the scary part. Most people keep chasing because they're scared of finding out the truth. Scared that without the chase, the connection doesn't exist. But that truth is freedom. It frees you from wasting time on people who never valued you, and it leaves room for those who truly do. Because the ones who care, the ones who respect you, they don't disappear in the silence. They step forward. They fill the space. They show you that your absence matters, that your presence is missed, and that they're willing to meet you where you are. That's how you separate the real from the fake, the loyal from the convenient. Think about it like this. You don't miss the noise in the room until it goes quiet. You don't miss the sunlight until it rains for days. You don't miss the water until you're thirsty. Absence sharpens appreciation. It forces perspective. And when people start to miss you, that's not just about them needing you back in their life. It's about them finally realizing the truth you already knew, that your presence carried weight, that your energy made things brighter, smoother, better. The chase blinded them to that truth. The absence made it clear. So when you stop chasing, you're not just pulling away from people, you're pulling away from weakness, you're pulling away from imbalance, you're pulling away from a cycle that drains you. And in doing so, you become magnetic because people are drawn to strength. They're drawn to someone who knows their value and doesn't hand it out for free. They're drawn to someone who can walk away without fear. Someone who understands that sometimes silence speaks louder than words. That magnetism is different from chasing. Chasing says, I need you. Magnetism says, I'm good regardless, but if you want to step into this energy, you better recognize what it is. That's the power of absence. That's why when you stop chasing, they start missing you. When you out here chasing people, what you don't always realize is that you're trading away your power piece by piece. Every call unanswered, every text left unread, every favor done without being returned. Those are small cuts to your self-worth. You might not feel it at first because you're convincing yourself that effort equals loyalty, that consistency equals love, that showing up for them will eventually make them see your value. But deep down, you know the truth. The more you chase, the more you shrink. Because chasing flips the energy. It puts you in the position of needing while they sit in the position of choosing. And the one who needs is always at a disadvantage. Power lives in balance. When both sides move toward each other with respect, there's power in that. But when one side is constantly reaching and the other is leaning back, the power shifts. It's no longer about connection, it's about survival. You start depending on their response for your sense of worth, and that's a dangerous game to play. Because self-worth can't be borrowed, can't be built on somebody else's validation. The moment you hand over your power like that, you're saying how you treat me decides how I feel about myself. That's weakness disguised as loyalty. That's how people lose themselves while trying to hold on to someone else. The truth is, self-worth is the foundation of everything. It's the engine that drives how people treat you, how opportunities come to you, how respect follows you. If you don't see your own value, don't expect the world to hand it back to you. People mirror the way you carry yourself. If you move like you need them more than they need you, they'll start to believe it. They'll stop showing up with effort because they feel like you'll take whatever they give. That's how power gets lost, not because they're stronger than you, but because you're giving your strength away willingly, piece by piece, every time you chase. But the moment you step back and decide, I know what I bring to the table, I don't need to beg for a seat, the energy flips. That's when power comes back to you, because you're no longer waiting for someone else to confirm your value. You're standing on it, you're rooted in it. And people can feel that. They can feel the difference between someone chasing and someone choosing. Chasing says, please notice me. Choosing says, I notice myself. And if you want to be part of that move with respect, that energy commands respect in a way chasing never could. And understand this, power isn't about control over others. It's about control over yourself. The person who controls their emotions, their reactions, their attention, that's the one who's really powerful. Chasing takes that control away because you're moving off their rhythm. You're waiting for their call, their reply, their validation. They move, you move. That's not power, that's dependency. But when you step back and decide you're not going to give that kind of access to your peace, you shift from chasing to attracting. You're not running after, you're letting things align with you. You're showing that your time and your energy are valuable, and if someone wants access, they have to meet the standard. That's what power looks like. It's the same way in business, in relationships, in friendships, everywhere. If you're always chasing clients, chasing opportunities, chasing attention, you look desperate, and desperation lowers value. But when you stand firm, when you move like you're already valuable, people come to you differently. They respect your time more. They approach with caution instead of comfort. They recognize that if they don't bring something to the table, they don't get to eat with you. And that's the thing, your self-worth sets the price. You can either undervalue yourself by chasing, or you can raise the bar by knowing what you deserve. Now here's the hard part. Choosing self-worth over chasing is not easy. It feels lonely at first, because chasing gives you little scraps of attention, little moments of validation, and when you stop, you're cutting yourself off from those scraps. You sit in silence, and silence feels heavy if you're used to noise. But that silence is where power grows. That's where you build yourself back up. That's where you remind yourself of everything you've done, everything you've survived, everything you bring. You stop seeing yourself through their eyes and start seeing yourself through your own. That's self-worth. It's not arrogance. It's awareness. It's not about thinking you're better than anyone else. It's about knowing you don't have to chase anyone to prove you're enough. And when you get to that place, when you start moving from power instead of weakness, something amazing happens. People start moving differently around you. The same ones who ignored you before start paying attention, not because you begged them to, but because you stopped begging. They feel the shift. They notice that your energy isn't free anymore, that your time isn't guaranteed. And that scarcity makes value rise. That's human nature. People want what's not easy to get. They respect what doesn't bend to their convenience. They value what requires effort to reach. That's why when you stop chasing, you're not losing people, you're filtering them. The ones who only stay because you chase, they fall away. The ones who truly value you, they step up. They bring energy to match yours. That's when real connections form. Self-worth and power are tied together. You can't have one without the other. Power without self-worth becomes arrogance, and self-worth without power becomes vulnerability. But when they come together, you walk different, you talk different, you attract different. You stop begging to be chosen because you already chose yourself. You stop moving like you're replaceable because you know your value can't be duplicated. You stop chasing, and suddenly the world starts chasing you, not because you're trying to play games, not because you're manipulating anyone, but because energy respects strength, and strength comes from within. Energy is the real currency of life. Everybody talks about money, about time, about opportunity, but at the end of the day, none of those mean anything if you don't have the energy to move with them. You can lose money and make it back. You can waste time and learn from it. But when you drain your energy in the wrong places, it's like pouring water into a cracked glass. No matter how much you feel, it never stays. And most people don't even realize how much of their energy they're giving away until they're empty. They're running on fumes, wondering why they feel tired, frustrated, unmotivated, disconnected from their own goals. 9 times out of 10, it's because they've been investing their energy into people, places, and situations that don't give a return. When you chase people, that's exactly what you're doing. You're putting your energy into proving, into pleasing, into making sure someone else is good while you're quietly starving yourself. Every time you overthink why they haven't called, every time you replay a conversation in your head, every time you go out of your way to get their attention, that's energy leaving your account. And the truth is, most people don't even notice it, because energy isn't like money where you can open the app and see the balance. It's invisible until you feel the weight of it missing. You start waking up drained, you start losing focus, you stop having the drive to push toward your own goals. That's the hidden cost of chasing. It robs you of the fuel you need to build yourself. Think about it like this. If your energy was money, would you hand it out to everybody for free? Would you keep giving it to people who don't pay you back, who don't even say thank you? Probably not. You'd call that a bad investment. But somehow when it comes to energy, people don't think that way. They keep pouring and pouring, thinking one day it'll come back, one day they'll wake up and finally get recognized. But life doesn't work like that. Energy follows the same rules as money. If you spend it recklessly, it disappears. And if you invest it wisely, it multiplies. That's why when you stop chasing, you stop wasting energy. You stop burning yourself out trying to keep connections alive that were never meant to survive on your effort alone. You start conserving that power for yourself, for the things that actually grow you, feed you, push you forward. You start realizing how heavy it is to constantly be the one keeping the fire alive. Because fire takes fuel. And when you're the only one throwing logs on the flames, of course you're exhausted. Of course you feel empty. You've been giving without receiving. And that's not noble, that's destructive. Energy attracts energy. If you pouring, attracts energy. If you pouring into someone and they not pouring back, you're creating a one-way street. That imbalance not only drains you, it teaches them that your energy is endless and free. They start expecting it, not respecting it. And once expectation sets in, appreciation fades. That's how you end up invisible in the very place you work the hardest to be seen. But when you step back, when you stop giving energy where it's not valued, you force the balance to reset. You show that your energy has worth, and worth demands respect. And don't get it twisted. Protecting your energy doesn't mean you stop giving. It just means you start being intentional about where you give. You start asking yourself, is this worth my energy? Is this person adding back into me? Is this situation helping me grow, or is it just taking from me? Because once you realize energy is currency, you treat it differently. You stop spending it on people who don't appreciate it, and you start investing it in yourself. And the return on that is powerful. When you invest energy in yourself, your goals, your health, your growth, your peace, it multiplies. It creates momentum. It creates opportunities. It creates magnetism. You start to feel stronger, sharper, more alive. People notice that. They notice the glow that comes when someone is fueled by their own energy instead of drained by others. Another truth, energy leaves traces. The people you give it to feel it whether they admit it or not. When you always chasing, they feel the weight of your energy constantly on them. It becomes background noise, but when that noise goes silent, when that presence disappears, they feel the difference. They might not have valued it before, but absence makes them realize how much it carried. That's why people start missing you when you stop chasing. They feel the loss of your energy because energy can't be replaced. Nobody else gives exactly what you give, and that uniqueness is your power. But it only becomes clear when you stop throwing it away like it's cheap. And let's be real, energy doesn't just affect relationships, it affects everything. When you're drained from chasing, your work suffers, your creativity suffers, your focus suffers, you start moving slow. Start doubting yourself, start losing the hunger to build. But when you protect your energy, suddenly you have fuel for all of that. You have the stamina to push through long nights, the clarity to make sharp decisions, the presence to show up fully in your own life. And that's what really shifts the game. When you stop chasing others and start chasing your own vision with that same energy, because energy invested in yourself always pays the highest return. Most people don't fail because they lack talent or resources or even time. They fail because they leak energy in the wrong places. They chase validation, they chase people, they chase situations that were never meant for them. And by the time they look up, they're too tired to chase what really mattered. That's why being intentional with your energy is everything. It's discipline, it's awareness, it's understanding that not everyone deserves access to your fuel. Some people are meant to ride with you, some people are just hitchhiking. And if you don't recognize the difference, you'll end up carrying people who are only meant to walk. So energy investment is about recognizing your power and protecting it. It's about knowing that every thought, every action, every effort is a transaction. You're either building yourself up or tearing yourself down. You're either multiplying your fuel or draining it. And the choice is always yours. The more you chase, the more you spend without return. The more you stand still and move with intention, the more you keep your energy flowing back into you. That's how you stop living empty and start living full. That's how you shift from chasing to being chased. There's a different kind of power that comes when you stop running after people and start running after yourself. That's when you start to notice the magnetic pull. It's that invisible energy that draws people towards you without you even trying. And the wild part is, it doesn't come from chasing, convincing, or begging anyone to notice you. It comes from being so focused on your own growth, your own grind, your own elevation, that people can't help but pay attention. They feel the shift. They feel the strength. They feel the difference in the way you carry yourself. This magnetic pull, and it's something chasing can never create. See, when you're chasing someone, the energy is one-sided. You're pouring out attention, pouring out time, pouring out effort, hoping they'll see you as valuable. But magnetic pull works the opposite way. You're not pouring out, you're building up. You're stacking discipline, stacking consistency, stacking results. You're building something that speaks louder than words. And people are drawn to that naturally because energy doesn't lie. When someone is locked in on their purpose, it radiates. You can't fake it. You can't pretend it. It's felt in every move you make, in the way you walk into a room, in the way you speak, in the way you work when nobody's watching. That's the type of energy that makes people lean in without you lifting a finger. Magnetic pull is born from focus. When you stop scattering your energy on chasing others, you have the space to put it into yourself, and that focus compounds. Day after day, move after move, you start to elevate. You start to look different, think different, act different, and people notice. They might not say it out loud, but they feel it. They wonder what changed, why your presence feels heavier, why your silence feels louder than your words ever did. That's because growth leaves fingerprints. Every time you invest in yourself, every time you improve, you leave behind traces of that progress that people can't ignore. And those traces are what pull people in. It's the law of attraction in its rawest form, like gravity. When you build weight, people feel the pull. But weight doesn't come from chasing others, it comes from stacking yourself. If you're always running after people, your energy is light, scattered, easy to dismiss. But when you stop and root yourself in purpose, you become solid. And solid things have gravity. Solid things attract without moving. That's why a mountain doesn't chase anyone, but people travel across the world to climb it. That's why the sun doesn't beg anyone to notice it, yet everything revolves around its presence. That's the difference between chasing and pulling. Magnetic pull also comes from authenticity. When you're not desperate to be seen, you're free to be real. You're not bending yourself to fit someone else's expectations. You're not changing your rhythm to match theirs. You're living in your truth, and truth has its own kind of magnetism. People are tired of masks, tired of fakes, tired of the same recycled energy. When they see someone who is authentic, who stands firm in who they are, they're drawn to it like water in the desert. They might not even understand why, but they can't ignore it. That's what happens when you stop chasing and just stand in your realness. And let's be clear, magnetic pull doesn't mean everybody's going to love you. In fact, the stronger your pull, the more it polarizes people. Some will be inspired, some will be intimidated, some will want to come closer, some will want to pull away. But that's still proof the energy is working. Because indifference is the opposite of pull. If you're chasing, most people are indifferent. They don't care enough to move. But when you're magnetic, nobody is indifferent. They either feel drawn in or they feel challenged. Either way, you're commanding energy without even chasing it. Another piece of magnetic pull comes from discipline. People respect what they can't do themselves. When they see you wake up early, stay consistent, keep building when nobody's clapping, they feel that. They might not say it, but they admire it. Discipline creates results, and results speak. You don't have to post 100 times about what you're doing. The work shows. The glow shows. The change in your lifestyle shows. That's why focusing on growth always outshines chasing attention. Attention fades, but results are undeniable. And results pull people in because success has a frequency that others want to tap into. The funny thing is, the same people you used to chase will start circling back once you stop. Not because they suddenly changed, but because your energy did. They start feeling the pull they never felt before. They see that you're not available like you once were, and scarcity increases value. They remember the energy you used to give free, and now that it's not there, they want it back. But here's where the real shift happens. By the time they come back, you don't even need them anymore. Because magnetic pull doesn't just bring back the past, it opens doors to new people, new opportunities, new levels that chasing could never reach. Magnetic pull is about alignment. When you're chasing, you're out of alignment because you're moving outside of yourself, reaching for something that doesn't want to be reached. But when you stop chasing, you move back into your lane. You put your energy where it belongs, into your own growth, your own vision, your own peace. And when you're aligned, the right people, the right opportunities, the right blessings start finding you, not because you forced it, because energy attracts energy. The right frequencies connect when they're tuned the same. You can't tune yourself if you're too busy chasing someone else's song. The truth is, you don't have to beg to be valued. You don't have to run after respect. All you have to do is build yourself up until your presence speaks so loud it pulls respect to you. And that's what magnetic pull really is. It's presence. The presence of someone who knows their worth, who lives in discipline, who moves in authenticity, who focuses on growth. That presence doesn't need to chase. It draws everything it needs, and it filters out what doesn't belong. And the beauty of it is, once you feel that pull working in your own life, you'll never waste energy chasing again. There's a big difference between being noticed and being respected. Attention is loud, it's flashy, it's quick. It comes and goes like waves, and most of the time it's shallow. Respect is quiet, it's steady, it's deep, it lasts. But too many people waste themselves chasing attention instead of building respect. They think if everybody's looking at them, they're winning. They think if they're always on someone's mind, they're valuable. But attention is easy to get. Respect takes something real. And when you stop chasing, that's when you learn how to trade the temporary high of attention for the long-lasting weight of respect. Attention runs on noise. Post enough, call enough, show up uninvited enough, and yeah, people will notice you. But notice doesn't mean value. Notice doesn't mean loyalty. People notice clowns in the circus too. They clap, they laugh, and then they forget. That's what attention does. It entertains for a moment and disappears. Respect is different. Respect doesn't need noise. It doesn't need you to remind people who you are every 5 minutes. Respect lives in consistency and integrity in the way you move even when nobody's watching. Respect lingers long after the moment has passed. Someone who respects you will think about you when you're not even around. They'll speak your name with weight, not because you shouted for it, but because your presence earned it. The reason chasing fails is because chasing is about attention. You're trying to force people to look your way, to think about you, to notice your presence. But the more you chase, the more you prove you care more about being noticed than being respected. And people feel that. They might give you little bits of attention to keep you satisfied, but they'll never hand you respect, because respect isn't given to people who beg. Respect is given to people who stand on their own, who don't fold under silence, who can disappear for a while and still carry weight when they come back. That's the difference. Respect is tied to boundaries. Attention is tied to desperation. When you set boundaries, when you show that your time, your energy, your presence has limits, people start to respect you. They realize they can't just have you whenever they want. They can't just take your energy for granted. Boundaries build value, and value builds respect. But when you're chasing, you have no boundaries. You're always available, always accessible, always giving more than you receive. And anything that's too available loses respect. Scarcity raises value, distance raises value, silence raises value. That's why stepping back builds respect faster than chasing ever could. And let's be real, attention feels good in the moment. A text back, a like, a call, it feels like proof that you matter. But it's surface level. It doesn't hold weight when life gets real. Attention doesn't show up when you're struggling. Attention doesn't defend your name when you're not in the room. Attention doesn't invest in your growth or protect your peace. Respect does. Respect is when someone shows up for you not because they entertain, but because they honor your worth. Respect is when someone listens when you speak, not because you demanded their attention, but because your words carry weight. That's why respect will always outlast attention. When you stop chasing, you shift from one to the other. You stop chasing texts, likes, calls, conversations. You start moving in silence, focusing on your growth, your grind, your peace. And over time, people stop seeing you as the one who's always there to give them attention. They start seeing you as the one who commands respect, because distance forces them to evaluate. They replay the moments when you showed up, the energy you gave, the value you brought. And when they realize it's not there anymore, they respect it more. It's human nature. We don't respect what we can take freely. We respect what we can lose. The crazy thing is, the same people who ignored you when you chased them will treat you different once you stop. Not because they changed, but because the energy did. They see you no longer move for attention. You're no longer begging to be noticed. And that shift forces them to treat you with respect if they want access. That's why stillness is more powerful than chasing. Stillness says, I know my worth. I don't need your attention to prove it. If you want me, you'll come correct. And people can't ignore that. They either rise to the level of respect or they fall off completely. Either way, you win, because you're no longer giving energy to those who only had eyes, not honor. Respect also sticks because it's tied to character. People might forget what you did for them, but they never forget how you carried yourself. They never forget your integrity, your discipline, your authenticity. Respect grows out of those roots. That's why you don't have to force it. You just have to live it. The more you hold yourself accountable, the more you live by your own standards, the more you stand firm, even when it's not easy, the more respect you build. That respect becomes your reputation, and reputation outlasts attention by miles. Attention disappears when the moment ends. Reputation carries when you're not even present. Another thing, attention is selfish, but respect is shared. People give you attention when it benefits them, when it entertains them, when it fills their boredom. But people give you respect because you've built something bigger than yourself. Respect is when people honor what you represent. It's when they see you as solid, dependable, real. That's why it holds more weight. It's not about them being entertained. It's about them recognizing your value regardless of what they gain. And the truth is, everybody wants respect deep down, but too many settle for attention because it's easier to get. Respect requires patience, boundaries, growth, silence, and consistency. Attention just requires noise, but noise fades, respect echoes. So when you're tired of chasing, tired of begging, tired of being overlooked, remember that what you really want isn't attention, it's respect. You don't want to just be noticed in the moment. You want to be remembered beyond it. You don't want to just take up space. You want to hold weight. And weight doesn't come from chasing anybody. It comes from standing still, holding firm, and building yourself until you no longer need to be noticed. You become undeniable. That's when people respect you, because you respected yourself first. At the end of the day, life isn't about who you can chase down. It's about who shows up when you stand still. When you stop begging to be seen, when you stop giving away your energy for free, when you stop moving like your worth depends on someone else's attention, that's when people really see you. That's when absence turns into presence. That's when silence turns into respect. Because what's real doesn't need to be chased. Respect doesn't need reminders. Value doesn't need to prove itself. And if somebody can only recognize your worth when you're running after them, then they were never worthy of it in the first place. So stop chasing, pour that energy into yourself. Build your vision, protect your peace, move with discipline, live with authenticity, and watch how the right people, the right opportunities, the right blessings start gravitating towards you. They won't just notice you, they'll respect you, and respect lasts longer than any kind of attention you could ever beg for.